Thank you, John. Good morning. Happy Sunday. It's good to be here. It is true. I have the privilege of serving as the mayor of Novato this year, but I'm not going to talk about budgets and city infrastructure or any of that stuff today. Long before I got involved in the city council here in Novato, I was on staff here as a pastor. Been a longtime member of this church, so it's always a pleasure to come and fill in when Pastor Caleb and Rachel are traveling. And we do want to bless them, and we do want to be praying for them. We have not just one, but we have two amazing pastors with Pastor Caleb and Pastor Rachel. And I just got to tell you, I've known them for a long time. They are the real deal. We are so blessed to have them as our pastors here at this church. And I want to encourage you this week as you're praying for them, even go one step farther. Send them a little note, an email, something on Facebook. When they're back here, shoot them a text message here or there just to encourage them because we are so lucky to have them. And we'll be thinking of them. Before I get into the message, I do have to do one thing because my dad's in the audience today, and today is his birthday. So, Dad, I just want to say happy birthday. Love you, and I'm glad you're here. All right, so we're going to kick things off. Last week, Caleb started us on a new series called Unshakable Peace. Unshakable peace. And we looked at what peace is, that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. We looked at God as the God of peace. We looked at the word shalom, which is the Hebrew word for peace, and what that means, and speaks of completeness and oneness, peace and prosperity, soundness, safety, health, welfare, quietness, contentment. Those all sound like some pretty good things. And we could all use a little more peace in our life. Don't you agree? Don't you think this world can use a little more peace? So as we looked last week at God as the God of peace, I was thinking about just this word in general, what comes to mind when I think about peace. And, a couple images came to mind. The first, we know that peace and the pursuit of peace is global. We have the International Peace Sign. You show this anywhere around the world, people will know what it means, what it stands for. It's well known. We have organizations, nonprofits that are focused purely on peace, like Greenpeace and the Peace Corps. There's this desire, there's this search in our world on planet Earth for more peace in our life. Even since 1951, the day the earth stood still, any alien that has visited this planet always reminds us what? That they come in peace. It's bigger than just this planet. I don't know why that is. I don't know why aliens always have to tell us in every movie that they come in peace. But there's this sense for more peace in our life. Not hostility, but peace. We also have the most prestigious honor that could be awarded is the Nobel Peace Prize. There's this hunger, this thirst for more peace. Nobody wants worry. Nobody wants anxiety. Nobody wants uncertainty or fear or stress or destruction. We want peace in our lives. The really interesting thing about the Nobel Peace Prize is that if you had asked anybody in the late 1800s if there would be an international peace prize named after Alfred Nobel, they probably would have laughed at you. Because something's very interesting about his background is that Alfred Nobel was not a pacifist. He was not, some just very calm, peaceful guy, and that's how he got this prize named after him. He invented dynamite. And he made his fortune through armaments factories and selling munitions, and he accumulated a vast wealth basically on manufacturing weapons and elements of destruction. So how did this individual come to have the Nobel Peace Prize named after him? Well, one of the common beliefs is that in 1888, while Alfred was still alive, his brother Ludwig had died. And the newspaper reporting wasn't so great back then, and there was an article of fake news that had come out. And when his brother died, the newspapers thought that it was actually Alfred who died. And they started to print his obituary. And many newspapers started to print, he was a very well-known man, he was very wealthy, so they started to print his obituary. And one of those obituaries had the headline, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." Now, it's one thing to read your own obituary while you're still alive. It's a whole other thing to read your own obituary while you're still alive, and it's under the headline, "The Merchant of Death is Dead." That was going to be his legacy. That is what he was going to be remembered for. And it's believed that article, that headline, caught his attention, and at some point in his life, he said, I don't want, that can't be my legacy. And he gave all of his fortune to create the Nobel Prize so that years and years later, he would be remembered for something different than what his legacy was. It goes to show that we have a desire not just for peace while we're here on earth, but we want to leave a legacy of peace. What are we going to be remembered for? What are we leaving behind? Nobody wants to leave behind people that are more stressed out and more worried. We want to leave behind peace, a legacy of peace. So last week when we looked opened up this series, Caleb spent a lot of time looking at God as the God of peace. But today we're going to look at the peace of God. And you say, wait, isn't that the same thing? Didn't you just move the words around, the God of peace and the peace of God? Yeah, we are just switching the words around. But followers of the God of peace should be filled with the peace of God. Followers of the God of peace should be filled with the peace of God. And in future weeks, we'll look at peace with others and peace with ourselves and general peace with God. But today I want to unpack what is the peace of God in our lives. What does that look like? How do we get it? How do we foster that? How do we create a foundation for the peace of God in our lives? And the peace of God is very different than the peace of men. Think about how we make peace. When we try to make peace with one another, many times you might use this phrase, let's just agree to disagree, right? We will agree. There's no way we're going to really find peace, so let's just agree to disagree and move on. That's kind of one way that we try to find peace with another. But with God, you just agree, right? Just agree with him. He's right 100% of the time. Just agree with him. In our world, we have peace treaties, right? Peace treaties. There's a disagreement. Each side will make compromises. They will formalize it in some sort of a treaty, and both parties sign on the dotted line, and now you have a peace treaty. Right? With God, he already signed the peace treaty before we were even formed, before we were even born, before the world was even created. He already signed a peace treaty with us. We just have to sign on the dotted line. He's already done his part. He's already signed his side of the agreement. Think about it. Other things that we'll do. We will extend a peace offering to one another. When you wrong somebody, when you do something that hurts one another, many times we will come with some sort of peace offering to them to try to make amends, to try to make things right because of the fault of our own. But in the kingdom of God, it works a little bit different. We are the ones who were at fault. We were the ones who made the mistake. We were the ones who sinned. And what did God do? God is the one who came with the peace offering. It's the other way around. And he made the ultimate peace offering. He sacrificed his son so that we can have peace with him. See, in this world, we hurt one another and then we offer peace to them. With God, we're the ones that made the mistake. We're the ones that made the hurts. And God offers peace to us. Starts to tell us a little bit about the peace of God and what that is. Galatians chapter 5 tells a little more because it lists peace as one of the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. As a fruit of the Spirit, peace is independent of circumstances. Peace is independent of circumstances. As Isaac was praying earlier about all the things that could be going around us, all the circumstances around us, peace is independent of those circumstances. Think about all of the fruit of the Spirit. They're all independent of circumstances. Start with love. If you only have love when others love you back, is that really anything special? Is there anything to that? No, instead, we are commanded to love our enemies, bless those that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. That's what love as a fruit of the Spirit looks like. It's not just love somebody, love when you're loved. It's love when you are hated, when you are used, when these actions are being projected towards you. That's when we are to love. The same with joy. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. If we only have joy in the happy times, what is that? That's nothing special. That's nothing unique. Everybody has joy when they're happy. But how do we rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances? We start to see something about the fruit of the Spirit. They are independent of circumstances. And peace is no different. No matter what's going on around us, no matter the stress, the noise, the worries, the anxieties, the storms, the peace of God does not change. It does not change. There's this time where you can just be in the zone. Have you ever just been in the zone and nothing around you can distract you? You're dialed in, you're focused. The peace of God is like that. Everything could be going on around us, but the peace remains constant, independent of circumstances. I don't know how to describe it any better than this image. Put up on the screen here. All right. Think about what basketball players have to go through when they are trying to shoot a free throw in the opposing arena. And it's even better in college basketball because they allow the students to come in with all sorts of crazy signs and giant heads of celebrities. I mean, think about what's going on in the background as somebody's trying to concentrate to just make a free throw. Well, look at the background there. You've got a Kevin Hart. You've got Betty White's head back there. You've got a cat on the far right. You've got the most interesting man in the world. You've got all these streamers going up. And this doesn't even capture the noise that's going on. This is just the visual. But in that moment, to be able to find a sense of peace and to calm yourself down and to concentrate and to make that free throw. That is what unshakable peace is like in our life. It's not the absence of all of that stuff in the background. It's not an empty gymnasium where nobody is there and we're just shooting free throws with nobody looking. Peace is all of that stuff going on around us, and yet we still have peace in the very moment. When I think about the title of this message, Unshakable Peace, if you think about it, that's really an oxymoron. Because if your peace can be shaken at the slightest storm, is that really peace? It isn't. Peace, by its very definition, is unshakable. It's like wet water or a round circle or cold ice. Peace is unshakable. It is unshakable. Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7 says, "Be anxious in nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus." The peace of God surpasses all understanding. When life throws you for a loop, when it tosses you all around, when you reach a breaking point and you're not able to get past it, that's where we need to find peace. And it surpasses all understanding, right? Some people might look at you and say, how in the world do you have peace in this moment? The world won't understand it, won't comprehend it, because peace surpasses all understanding. Many times we don't even understand it ourselves. You look at everything that's going on in your life, how can I find peace now? Well, that's okay. Peace surpasses all understanding. You don't have to try to understand it in order to have peace. The peace of God is not the absence of struggles. It's peace in the very moment. I want to say that again. The peace of God is not the absence of struggles. It is peace in that very moment. It's not the absence of tests. It's not the absence of worries. It's not the absence of anxiousness. It's peace right there. The peace of God does not remove storms in your life. Instead, it provides shelter in the midst of the storm. Sometimes we are so quick to try to change our external circumstances, and God is wanting us to find peace in the very moment. Unshakable peace. So we continue on. Last week we looked at shalom as the Hebrew word for peace and broke that out a little bit. In the New Testament, we have two Greek words for peace. One is commonly translated peace, and the other one is commonly translated quiet. I think for all of us, at some point or another, we can just use a little more peace and quiet in our lives, right? Have you ever found yourself just saying, I just need some peace and quiet? These two Greek words, eirene, which means peace or prosperity, to set at one again. That's that Greek word that's commonly just translated peace. And then we have siopao, which is commonly translated quiet, or it means to silence, to hold one's peace, or to be dumb, not intellectually, but in the sense of not able to speak because you're silent. To be calm. We can all use a little peace and quiet sometimes. And it's interesting, we're often quick to demand peace and quiet around our lives, and we often do so by raising the decibel level of our voice. Now, just think about the irony there. You as an individual are wanting peace and quiet in your life, and the way that we go about doing that is raising our volume and raising our voice and demanding peace and quiet, right? When you're trying to get some peace and quiet, nobody just calmly says, if we can just use a little peace and quiet right now. No, it's, I need some peace and quiet. You raise your decibel level to try to get what you want. And I'll tell you, if you wait to the breaking point to try to bring about peace and quiet in your life, there's a good chance it might be too late. Go ahead and watch this clip.
First day?
Yes,
I'll take care of her.
thank you.
Kindergarten is like the ocean. You don't want to turn your back on it.
Oh, they're okay. Don't worry. Everything is under control. No. Monsters. What are you doing with this?
Aren't you going to break it up? No, 2 more days of this, and you'll quit.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No. Don't start this. Oh, no.
Ever been there before? I think a lot of us can relate. If you wait to that absolute tipping point, you are probably going to respond in a way that you shouldn't respond, and in a way that is not going to bring about the peace that you're trying to seek. But we do that so often, right? We wait till that very moment. That's not unshakable peace. What is unshakable peace? What does it look like? How can we actually apply it in our life? If it's truly independent of circumstances, then we shouldn't have to do anything to experience it. It should just be there when we need it, when we call on it. The peace should be there, right? There are some things we can do practically to remind ourselves of His peace. There are smart decisions we can make along the way to prepare ourselves so we don't find ourselves in a moment like that, a moment of desperation. What can we do in the midst of life's storms? How can we develop that unshakable peace in our life? I want to look at the story in Mark chapter 4 where Jesus calmed the storm and look at just 5 practical truths that we can use in our own life to have the peace of God into our life and invite the peace of God into our life in the midst of the storms. So just a quick context in Mark chapter 4. It's pretty early on in Jesus' ministry, but He has already performed several miracles and has amassed a strong following of individuals. We read previously in Mark that Jesus healed a man with unclean spirit. It says He healed many after sunset one day. He healed a man with paralysis, a man who had a paralyzed hand on the Sabbath. He healed Peter's mother-in-law. He healed a leper. He healed a man with a withered hand. And all of these people are starting to follow Jesus because of these miracles that He's doing. And He's named the 12 disciples, and they've seen all the miracles that He's doing. And finally, they get to the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus is going to teach. And there's so many people that He gets out on a boat and kind of pushes out into the sea a little bit to use the water as a natural amphitheater. And that's where He shares several parables, the parable of the sower and the parable of the seed. And He's doing all of this teaching, and that's how we end up at the end of Mark chapter 4 and verse 35. On the context of all these miracles that He's done and teaching that He's given. And in verse 35, this is where we're going to spend the rest of our time this morning. It says, "On the same day when evening had come, He said to them, 'Let us cross over to the other side.' Now when they had left the multitude, they took Him along in the boat as He was, and other little boats were also with Him. And the great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But when he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow, he was in the stern, asleep on the pillow, and they awoke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And then it wraps up in verse 41, "And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, 'Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?'" So as we jump into this story, I want to look at 5 points about finding peace in the midst of our storm. And the first one comes out of this first verse in verse 35, and it's stick to the plan. Point number 1, stick to the plan. Verse 35, "On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us cross over to the other side.'" Where was Jesus taking them? To the other side. He gave them a promise. He gave them a plan. He laid out their future. He told them where he was taking them. We are going to the other side. We are not going to the middle of the Sea of Galilee. We are not going to drown in the middle of the sea. We are going to the other side. And he wasn't talking about like the other side of life, that not the other side. The other side of the Sea of Galilee. They are going to the other side. But how quickly, when the storm arose, did they forget the promise that Jesus had already made? Jesus told them he was taking them to the other side. He made that promise. It started off well. They said, "Hey, it sounds like a good idea. Let's go to the other side." But how quickly did they forget? Hebrews 12 verse 2 tells us, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God." He is the author and the finisher. He doesn't just author the plan, but he's going to finish the plan. If he tells you he's taking you to the other side, he's going to get you to the other side. Philippians 1 verse 6 says, "Being confident of this very thing, that he which has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ." We might start projects and never finish them, but Jesus always finishes every single project he starts. He will perform it. He will perform it. So point number 1, stick to the plan. Remember the plan. Don't let the storm take your focus off of what the promise that has been made over your life is. Point number 2, seat Jesus on your boat. You'll realize all 5 of these start with the letter S. Number 2, seat Jesus on your boat. They also did this right. Because we read in verse 36, "Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were also with him." Is Jesus in your boat? The disciples did well here. Jesus was in their boat. If you want any chance of making it when the storms of life come, make sure that Jesus is in your boat. Make sure the Prince of Peace is in your boat. Right? You're not supposed to set sail without X number of life preservers in your boat, one for every passenger. Jesus is the ultimate life preserver. Don't get in a boat without him, right? Take him with you. There's good news, though. If you happen to set sail without him in your boat, that's okay. He walks on water. You don't have to return to port. He'll come to you. All you have to do is call on his name, and he'll be there. For the vast majority of us here, I don't think it's an issue of whether or not Jesus is in our boat. For many people, at one point or another, they've invited Jesus in their boat. I think what we struggle with is whether or not he is in all of our boats. And in this passage, there were many other little boats out there too. What does that mean? I think when I look at this world, this life, we have greatly complicated and segmented our lives. It's no wonder so many people, adults to kids, are utterly and completely stressed out. We have so many little boats. We have so many little social circles and different worlds that we live in and we operate in. 50 years ago, life was a little bit simpler. The world was a little bit smaller. People didn't travel as much, and it would be pretty common to grow up in a town and then maybe work in that town, and your circle might only be a radius of 10 miles. And, social circles were smaller, friend groups were smaller. Now we're traveling all over the place. And, many years ago, it would be pretty common to have one job for 25 years. Now people don't even have one career for 3 or 4 years. I mean, we don't just change jobs, we completely change careers. Every time you do that, you're meeting new people, you're meeting new groups, you're in a different environment, and life has just gotten a little more complicated. We have all of these little boats out there. We have our home boat, we have our neighborhood boat, we have our church boat, we have our financial boat, we have our work boat, we have our active boat, we have this group of friends has a boat, and this group of friends, and we've got all these different little worlds, and it's stressful. How do you keep up with it all? When you look at what our teenagers are dealing with today, all of the different demands and pulls on their life, whether it's to excel in athletics or in academics or in the arts, and then in their church youth group, and there's just so much that is going on, and our lives are no longer integrated, but they're really disintegrated. We're more connected than we've ever been, but we're more fragmented at the same time. Peace, shalom, it speaks of oneness. It speaks of completeness. It's not about just having Jesus in your boat. It's about getting all of your boats together, having just one boat. Not, you're not a different person when you go here and a different person when you go there, but oneness, completeness, peace. Same for our church life. Our church life can't just be a little piece of who we are, right? That doesn't speak of oneness. Thinking of peace, the peace of God brings oneness to the pieces of our life. God's desire isn't that we would be all fragmented and broken individuals, but that we would be one, that we would be complete. Number three in this quest for how do we have peace in the midst of the storm is one that might be hard at times, but it's simply this: to sleep on it. Just sleep on it. Mark 4, verse 37, it says, "A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling, but he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow." The storm came, and what was Jesus doing? He was sleeping on a pillow. Now, a little hint here. Try not to wait until the storm is at its absolute worst to take a nap. It's a little more difficult to fall asleep. But as the storm is just coming, the boat's gently rocking, nice and calm. There's a little bit of wind coming over. You got a little white noise in the background. You got a nice little gentle rock. It's kind of easy to fall asleep at that moment. We need to find ways to bring rest and reset into our life, a way to recharge ourselves. When you think about resetting, when you think about resting, when you think about sleeping or sleeping on it, there are so many opportunities that God has given us just through the way that time works and the way that the planets and the sun and the rotations and all that stuff you learn in middle school science works. We have these natural opportunities to reset. Just think about time. You have a bad hour, something bad happened to you this particular hour, that's okay. There's another hour coming. You can reset. You can start all over. It's a clean, fresh hour. You can start again, right? Oh, you had a really bad day? That's okay, because tomorrow's a new day, and it's the day that the Lord has made. You had a bad week? Oh, you know what? That's okay. Every 7 days, the weeks reset as well, right? You had a bad month? I get that. Sometimes we have a whole bad month. We could just throw out the month of January. Well, that's okay. February is here. You had a bad year? You see where we're going here? We have all of these natural times where we can just reset, and we need to take advantage of that. If you look at really high-performing individuals, this is one thing they do very well. They're able to reset, especially athletes. And I heard a performance coach that worked with professional tennis players. And they explained something that I never realized before, but if you ever watch tennis, after every point, most of the time, players on both sides will turn their back to the net and they'll look at their racket and they'll adjust the strings on their racket, right? It's not because the rackets need the strings adjusted after every single time you hit a tennis ball. It's a focus mechanism that was taught to them to take their eyes away from the game, look at the strings, play with the string a little bit, reset your mind, and get ready for the next point. There are all these times throughout our life that we have to learn how to reset. We have to be able to sleep on it. We have to be able to take a time out and to recharge and get ready. And if we don't do that, we will not be ready when the storms come. We will not be well rested, and we will find ourselves like Arnold in Kindergarten Cop there, just screaming and yelling. Reset. Matthew 11, verse 28 says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Boy, do we need more rest in this world. I read a study, 27% of people in a consumer report survey said that they had trouble falling asleep or staying asleep most nights. 27% of Americans. And 68% of all Americans said they struggled with sleep at least once a week. Most of this is self-inflicted. We have one of the longest work weeks on the planet. We are overworked. We are overstressed. Here in the Bay Area, we have long commutes. We have traffic. Highway 37 is partially closed down. We just have more stresses that keep coming up in our lives. Yet we still have to get home, and we have to put the kids to bed, and there's a PTA meeting, and then it's a life group week, and it just adds up. There's so much that we have to do. Really, the only people that are winning in this battle are the mattress companies, because they keep telling us you need this type of foam, and you need this type of air, and you need this sleep number, and you need this type of pillow, and you need this type of blanket. And, a lot of it is if we can just calm our mind down, if we can just find peace of God in our lives, we could probably have the best night's sleep of our lives on a sheet of plywood for all it matters. It's not so much about what we're sleeping on, about what's going on up here and what's going on in here. In the first service, my wife was listening to me share the message, and she texted me an example during the French Revolution. People were just so overworked that they basically said, we're working 7-day weeks here. Forget Sunday. Everybody's working 7 days a week. And you know what happened when they did that? Production actually decreased. They added a work day, and production decreased. Why? Because we need to be able to reset. We need to be able to recharge. Sleep on it. Sleep on it. When the storms of life come, sleep on it. Don't try to make a rash decision. Don't lose your peace. Don't lose sleep over it. I know it's a conundrum. You might say, well, I'm so stressed that I can't sleep, and because I can't sleep, I'm so stressed. I get that. But find some things that you can do. Change up your routine. Do something a little bit different. A good night's sleep will solve so many problems. Sleep on it. Number four, sacrifice for others. What does sacrificing for others really have to do with maintaining a sense of peace in our life? Well, look at chapter 4, verse 38. It says, "When they awoke Jesus, they said to him, 'Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?'" In the storm, it's easy to become stressed by the actions or inactions of others. We'll say that again. In a storm, it's easy to become stressed by the actions or inactions of others. The people were in the boat. They were toiling. Waves were beating against the boat. It was beginning to fill with water. And they could have said to themselves, you know what? Jesus is asleep in the stern, so let's try to keep our voices down and keep the noise to a minimum. We don't want to disturb his sleep. They could have been focused on him. They could have tried to maintain the peace. Somebody on the boat was able to find peace. And they could have allowed him to maintain that peace. But what happened? They were upset that somebody else found peace in the midst of their storm. Wait a minute. How does this guy have peace? Why did they wake him up? Did they wake him up because they said, hey, Jesus, things are getting a little dicey out here. You might want to get yourself to safety. It wasn't out of a concern for Jesus. And did they wake him up because they needed him to deliver him from the storm? No, they didn't even say that. They woke him up and they said, don't you care what's happening to us out here? Don't you care that we are perishing? It wasn't about Jesus' well-being. It was about their own well-being. And so many times in a storm, in trials, in tribulations, in things that we go through, we get more concerned about how other people are faring through it, and that just stresses us out even more. That's why they woke him up. Don't let your stress influence another's peace. Don't let your stress influence another's peace. They were frustrated that he was sleeping. Do you not care? You want a surefire way to introduce stress and anxiety into your life and destroy the peace of God? Look at what other people all around you are doing, right? Surefire way to bring stress and anxiety into your life. And it's so easy now, too. I mean, it used to be, what you would maybe visually see in the neighborhood when the Joneses would drive up with their new station wagon, and the whole neighborhood, the little scuttlebutt would be going on about, oh, I can't believe they got a new station wagon. I bet you they paid a lot of money for that, and there's like all this little neighborhood gossip. But it was only based off of what you can see, right? Right there in your own very neighborhood, if you lived on that same street. Nowadays, all we have to do is open up our phone to see what everybody around us is doing. And it's not just our own street. I mean, we can see what our friends are doing all across the world. And you pull up your phone one day while you're sitting at home on the couch, and one friend is sitting courtside at the Warriors, and another friend just had an epic day on the slopes, and another friend is exercising and losing all this weight and posting pictures about that, and another friend just ate at a 5-star restaurant and they're posting pictures of their food, and you're sitting here eating a bag of potato chips, and you're thinking, what is going on? Right? You want to bring stress into your life. Pay attention to what everybody else is doing around you, all the fun that they're having, and you will be stressed out. I mean, it won't even take that much time. Why did Jesus get to take a nap while everybody else was trying to save the ship? Rather than let him enjoy that sleep, we've got to wake him up. And we do that. I mean, when you see what good things that are happening to your friends around you, celebrate in that, rejoice in that. If that gives you stress, then stop looking at it. Stop focusing on it. Don't let your stress influence another's peace. You want to find the peace of God? Give yourself to others. Rejoice in others. Focus on the well-being of others. If you're constantly serving and sacrificing for those around you, you won't even find the time to stress. You're focusing your mind on something else, something better, something greater. The last point, as I wrap things up today, finding peace in the storm. Number 5, say thank you. Say thank you. What does saying thank you have to do with finding peace in our life? We're going to go back to this story. Mark chapter 4, verse 39. It says that Jesus arose after being so rudely awakened. He rebuked the wind. He said to the sea, "Peace, be still." The wind ceased, there was a great calm, and he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" Verse 41, and they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Just 2 verses ago, they were freaking out. We are perishing. We are dying. Jesus gets up, calms the storm, brings peace to their very moment. And what do? They start stressing about the next anxiety of life. Who is this guy? Oh my goodness, he just told the storm to be calm, and it was calm. And now they're all stressed, and fear and anxiety is building up over that. They didn't even get to enjoy the peace that God brought them in the moment. A simple thank you would have been nice, right? They wake the guy up, he calms the storm, and then they're still stressed. How many times do we do that in our own lives, right? The peace of God comes, he delivers us, he rescues us, and we don't even recognize it. We're just on to the next stress. The next stress is always going to be there. It's always going to be there. And it's looking for you the moment that the peace comes. Say thank you. Take a time out. Take a step back. Enjoy the peace of God for a moment. They finally could have gotten some sleep at that time, but instead they were so stressed about who is this guy that commands the winds and the seas. Say thank you. Remember the peace of God to protect you from the worries that lie ahead. Remember the peace of God to protect you from the worries that lie ahead. You know, that song that we were singing, we're going to sing a little louder, sing a little louder. We need the times of peace to be a little louder than the times of stress. But so many times we're not remembering those. We're allowing our anxieties and our stresses to be a little louder than our peace. And it ought to be the other way around. Psalm 9 verse 1 says, "I will give thanks to you, Lord, with all my heart. I will tell of all your wonderful deeds." Stop telling of the stresses. Stop telling of the worries. Stop telling of the storms. And let's start telling of his wonderful deeds. Let's remember the goodness and say thank you in those times so that will give us strength when the next storm comes. Unshakable peace. Unshakable peace. God is the God of peace, and we need the peace of God in our lives. It is independent of circumstances. All noises around you could be happening, but if you have the peace of God, it is truly unshakable, and nothing can stand against it. Don't wait until your breaking point to try to seek peace. Remember, stick to the plan. He's taking you to the other side. Seat Jesus in your boat. Consolidate all of your boats together. Put him in the middle. When storms come, don't forget to sleep on it. We need that rest. We need that recharge. We need that reset. Set your mind, set your focus on serving and sacrificing for others, not on yourself. And don't forget to say thank you, to remember those times of peace when God has come into your life. Would you bow your heads with me this morning? We desperately need peace in this world, and we need to be agents of peace wherever we go. But it starts with finding that peace of God in our life. He is the God of peace, and we need the peace of God in our lives. So, Father, today as we wrap up this message, I ask that you would truly teach us what that unshakable peace looks like in our lives. It's not the absence of circumstances. It's not the absence of storms. It's peace right there at that time, in that moment. Shelter in the midst of the storm. I don't know what part spoke to you this morning. Maybe you need to seat Jesus in your boat. Maybe it's as simple as that. We're going to have our team up here at the end, and anybody here would be glad to pray with you if you say, you know what, I just need to seat Jesus in my boat. Maybe you just need to sleep on it and find that rest. Maybe you're stressed about the anxieties of what's happening around you, and you just need to silence those things out. Whatever it is, God's desire is that we would find the peace of God in our life. I'm going to invite you to stand up. We're going to sing this song that we were singing a little bit earlier. We're going to sing it yet a little louder still. There's that verse in there about singing in the midst of the storm. And I want you to declare it this morning. I want you to declare it as an act of peace in our lives, singing in the midst of the storm. Team, let's take it away.